campus, so I transferred to Montclair State with the stipulation that I'd be allowed to continue my research. They agreed. I got a grant, and I bought another commercially available system that was a substantial improvement over the first one. It actually worked. But there were a lot of limitations and liabilities to the design, and I thought that there's got to be a better way to do this. Subsequent, I operated 2 other commercially available systems, and each time I thought, we're not quite there yet, whether it was a safety factor, which was paramount to me, or an efficiency factor, or an aesthetics factor, or whatever it was. As fate would have it, Kean University identified me as a targeted faculty hire and came after me pretty aggressively. And the president said to me during my interview, what's it going to take to get you to come here? I said, I need X number of dollars. He said, what for? I said, I want to design my own composting system and put it into operation here on the campus. I want to just have a food scraps composting laboratory where we can investigate this, what I believe is going to be a very important issue. He said, okay. I resigned from Montclair State on September 30th. I was technically unemployed until September 1st, and it was during those 2 months that this design took place. That's important because that means I own 100% of the intellectual property. Lucky break. And so what my objective was, I was familiar with the literature. We've known since the 1930s that we can digest organic material in 3 days, but most of what was researched back then was manure. So in other words, it's already been pre-digested. I was interested and convinced that we could do food in 5 days, but I wanted to make sure that it was safe, energy efficient, aesthetically pleasing, value engineered, and state-of-the-art technology. So I used my background as a pre-med undergraduate major to try and mimic the human body. So what you have here is your mouth. This is your teeth. This is your esophagus. That up there is your pyloric sphincter that leads to the sphincter opening in your stomach. This is your stomach and your intestines. You can figure out what the discharge for is. And through that process, and then trying to maximize, again, going to the literature, knowing what's the proper carbon-nitrogen ratio, knowing what the proper oxygen content is, was able to do some very simple math and figure out, okay, how much air do I need to displace in here hourly so I can maintain an optimal O2 level? What do I need to do for the CN ratio? And over this technology was patented 5 years ago. In the 4 years that led up to that, I came up with the 4-to-1 ratio with the wood shavings, came up with the oxygen protocol, and this is where we are today. And I'm thrilled that Princeton University selected us over every other commercially available technology.
So this is the first one?
No, it's not. This is the 5th one. It's the first one at Princeton. Here. We have the prototype in operation at Kean University. We have one at Union County Vocational Technical School. We have this one. We have 2 in operation in France and 1 in San Diego, California. And hopefully many more to come.
Is there a mechanical stirrer inside?
There is not. So the food material gets dropped into the hopper. Everything gets chopped up to roughly the size of a sugar cube. That means it takes raw meats, cooked meats, bones, shells, fruits, vegetables, grains, you name it. Everything gets chopped up to the size of a sugar cube, drops into this screw conveyor. This is just an Archimedes screw. Takes something from low to high. Drops into the digestion vessel. The digestion vessel is empty except for some baffles that are on the edges, and this pipe that runs along the full length. That pipe then blows the air through it every 15 minutes. We do that because we know from an abundance of literature that after 15 minutes it will be anaerobic. That's where you get your odors. We don't want odors, so every 15 minutes it gets a complete, total, 100% air exchange with all fresh air coming in. Once every hour the vessel rotates. That's to facilitate the physical breakdown through the tumbling. It's to avoid any methane pockets that might have developed. It also is on a slight down angle, so the discharge end is slightly lower than the input end, so that rotation forces the material to tumble during the discharge end. It is a 5-day process from the day the load goes in to the day it comes out. I've tested empirically by doing things like dropping a bright yellow tennis ball in the input port, not running it through the shredder, just drop it in there. And without fail, every time I've done that, the tennis ball doesn't appear on day 4, it doesn't appear on day 6, it appears on day 5. So I'm very confident in saying that this is a 5-day process. We've had the compost analyzed by U.S. Composting Council COF Testing Assurance certified labs. And each time it has come back as mature, stable, pathogen-free. We've also had it tested at the USCC counterpart over in Europe, with a system we have in operation in France. They found the exact same findings. After 5 days, the compost is mature, stable, and pathogen-free.
What temperature does it get to inside?
It'll get up to anywhere from 155 to 165. There is no auxiliary heating. That's just the heating metabolism of the microbes.
So you actually seal it up, you can't add during it?
No, it's a through process, so you can get loaded every day.
So even when you're loading it, the stuff that comes out the front is going to...
Right, that's, again, because of the down angle, the discharge end is always going to be more full than the input end. You can't really see it with your naked eye because it's only a small number, but I can tell you it's several inches lower on that end than it is on this end. So the discharge end, if you look at the inside of the vessel, it'll appear level, but that's because the vessel is like this. So if you get down the discharge end, it'll probably be touching the top, and up here it'll be a foot or two below.
So it's just one big space in there.
Correct.
But, so you're not worried that there's going to be some mixing of fresh stuff in?
The lab reports have never shown that it's anything other than mature and stable. If there was fresh stuff, it would be immature and unstable.
So you're planning on loading every day and offloading every day?
I think Gina's plans are to load Mondays through Fridays, so during the weekdays.
Engineered microbes or?
No microbes are added to it. No bacterial inoculates, no enzymes. People they get queasy when we tell them this. All the bacteria necessary to break down the food are already on it. They do the same thing inside of us that they do in there.
It's the circle of life.
You're exactly right. I try to mimic the human
You have
body.
more
That was the whole
predictability
objective.
if you add
Is
it.
there a curing step
Don't need
after
to.
the material comes out the end?
Only if you're going to package it in a sealed packaging for retail purposes. It can be put into the soil immediately upon discharge, but because it's still very microbially active, when it comes out, if you're going to put it in a sealed, some kind of a sealed container for retail purposes, I recommend 21 to 28 days curing.
So once it gets going, full speed, how much volume of soil will it generate?
It should generate about a yard to a yard and a half per weekday.
Is that going out in wheelbarrows?
No, it's a trailer that's parked right outside there. Yeah, we take, even the biggest wheelbarrow is like 8/10 of a yard, so they're pretty small.
So other than time, is there any internal monitoring of what's going on?
There are 3 access ports on the side where Gina, if she wanted to, she could, on the other side, she could check temperature, she could get a moisture gauge and check moisture. Those are the only 2 things. It would get very costly if we wanted to add things like an O2 or a CO2 monitor or a humidity monitor or any of those things. There are certainly options, but in order to try and keep the costs down, we don't include them as standard equipment.
In the future, do you see it being like much like the school district, like a municipality type of purchase, like
It certainly could be.
acquisition? Yeah.
We've been talking with Bloomfield Township, with Woodbridge Township, and with who's the other one now? Oh, Princeton Borough. And Mayor Limpert is very interested in having this be the system that will be used for Princeton Borough. She just wants to see it in operation.
It's all in now, it's a town.
Okay.
So I was really surprised you can actually throw bones into this.
Absolutely.
How about nuts?
Yes, absolutely. Now they're not going to be broken down. I had a guy say to me once, because we at Kean University we had an event once where I wasn't at the event, but apparently they served a whole bunch of oysters. So we ran oyster shells through there, and it chopped up. And when the guy looked at compost, he said, "Well, Nick, you're out of your mind. It's going to take 100 years for those shells to break down." I said, "Great, I got 100-year slow release of calcium going into my soil. What's your point?"
What about fats?
Minimal. I mean, there's a good market for fog, because a lot of people are turning it into biodiesel, so it can take a little bit. I don't like to see it go much above 10%.
So I could throw some sour cream in there or some milk?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I thought you were talking about
rendering. No, that's not.
Or
I'm just saying
the thing they cook French fries in.
Oil.
Yeah. Not that kind of stuff. But there are people who pay you for that stuff.
It's one of the cardinal rules. I don't rake in my own home composting.
Of course not.
No meats, fats, and bones or dairy products.
Absolutely.
So the fact that you could take that and makes it a little bit
because
easier.
this is totally enclosed. There's no way to attract rodents or undesirable pests in here because the entire thing is sealed.
They'll find you.
Well, they typically don't.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, what is the cost of one of these things?
They vary in price. This particular model right now retails for about $245.
Yeah.
Well, so anything that comes in contact with the feedstock is stainless steel. So it will literally last forever. You could take pure hydrochloric acid, dump it into that vessel, and it will literally stay there for the rest of eternity because stainless steel and hydrochloric acid don't react. So it would stay there forever. Everything else is a carbon steel painted with an industrial grade epoxy-based enamel. The preventative maintenance on this thing is there are about 12 grease fittings that need to be hit. I've recommended to Gina, start of the fall semester, start of the spring semester. That's probably aggressive because we're in here. The grease isn't going to go anywhere. There are 4 motors. They will burn out in 7 to 10 years. It's about a 20-minute replacement, lockout, tag out, 4 bolts. The electrician swaps them out. They're standard motors. You call Granger before noon today. It's on your loading dock before noon tomorrow. There's a washable air filter for the regenerative blower. Right there, they can rinse that out in the sink. The teeth in the shredder will need to be replaced in about 10 to 15 years. It's about a 3-hour operation, but that's 10 to 15 years from now. The rest of it will last a lifetime.
What's the longest you've had one operating?
9 years at Kean University.
Is the Kean system similar?
The Kean is the prototype of this one. So the Kean system is the original iPhone. This is the, what are we up to, 11? This is the iPhone 11. So it's primitive by comparison. It's also fully automated. There used to be a guy on TV many years ago sold these chicken rotisserie things, and his tagline was, you set it and forget it. You know, you put the chicken on the thing, stick it there, shut the door, put it. Well, this is load it and forget it. It's fully automated. There's a touch-sensitive HMI panel, human machine interface. Once it's on and operational, it's got the loading mode, the discharging mode, the digesting mode. It will automatically rotate the drum every hour. It will automatically blow air through it every 15 minutes. It's a fully automated system. What's in there is probably every bit as powerful as the PC on your desk.
How noisy is it?
It's very quiet. It's up to Gina. I can turn it on. Gina.
He needs the password to turn it on.
When we turn it on, there's a request to hear it.
Just we should probably, you know.
Just want to hear the noise level.
Decide to be out at like 1, but I'm sure you can.
Different noise level when it fills. You know, it doesn't do the. It has nothing to
Still have power
chop.
coming in?
That's probably noisy.
Wait, is that the same on the rotate?
No. Yeah.
So nobody has to leave this.
Correct. And I have, did we have the alarm still turned on?
Well, you said it's
It treats a power failure